Welcome back to Lower Keys Living, everybody. And I'll get into this calamity here at the end of the video, but just wanted to start out by saying this has been the best start to a mahi season that I've ever seen down here. They have been thick and strong in all quality size. So this is the setup I typically run, actually almost exclusively run. So on my outriggers, and I've got gunnel mounted outriggers, I run surface lures, typically billy bait mahi slayers with cone heads on them, about 100 feet behind the boat. And then off each corner of the boat, I'll either run another featherhead lure about 200 feet or deep diving lures about 75 feet behind the boat. I like the deep diving lures because they get down below the wake turbulence or the engine turbulence into clean water. But on this particular day, I didn't run those too much because there was so much, we were working weed lines pretty heavily. Again, right off the bat, my daughter ended up with our first tuna or first mahi on board. This one was about 27 inches, so starting off with a nice keeper. And once that first one was on board, the action was pretty much non-stop the entire time we were out here. We started out the day, we went out to about 700 feet of water. I passed this really broken, it was heavy, but a broken weed line, didn't see any signs of life, so we went all the way out to about 700 feet of water. Again, didn't see anything, trolled a few small broken weed lines out there, and then I'm coming back into the spot and just thought I'd troll this for a little bit and see if I could pick anything up, and almost literally within a minute of getting our line set, we ended up with our first mahi on board. And from then it was non-stop. So in about a 45-minute time span, we ended up with our limit of 12 mahi and 4 nice blackfin tuna in this spot. But as I'm going through this video, if you keep watching, you can see how thick this broken weed line is, and I'll point it out in a few different spots. But it's why I run these cone-headed lures. Stay away from any lure that's got if you're working weed lines that have the flat heads on it. These mahi slayers from billy baits have been my favorite go-to lure. You've heard me talk about them over and over again. I've got 3 of them set up here. They're pink ones. That bright color really draws the mahi out. I've run all blue, I've run pink and blue, but these solid pink ones, by far and away, the most productive ones that I've set. And again, you can see how thick the weeds are. And if you're running those flathead lures, you're going to be cleaning your lures constantly. You're going to spend more time cleaning lures than you are fishing. Whereas these billy baits, this whole time, I didn't have to clean weeds off of these once going through this, which is just amazing. Gives you more fishing time, lets you get in right on top of the fish. So just got that line set. And here in a moment, I'll try and do a close-up of it and screen grab, but along the right edge of the screen, I could see 5 or 6 mahi come out of some of the weeds and start chasing that port side lure off the outrigger. But ended up with one of those off that group, and I'll give you a close-up here in a second of it. Whitney and see, but again, it was non-stop and limiting it out. And again, look, you can see how I'm just going right through these weeds. It was such a broken weed line, it might have been about 75 yards in width, but ended up being one of the most productive spots and most productive 45 minutes of fishing I've ever had down here. This, you can see the water breaking, but there are 5 or 6 mahi in here chasing that one lure. I was hoping to get 2 on at once here, but we didn't. But ended up bringing this one in, and you'll see it jump a few times right at the right edge of the screen coming in. But again, so much fun, so much action, and ended up loading up on mahi, and all good size, nice mahi. Nothing majorly huge, nothing trophy worthy or taxidermy worthy, but all good size, nice mahi fillets. You can see this one jumping and fighting coming in. And then shortly after this, you'll see I ended up back on the other side of the boat, and I put out that 3rd featherbait lure that's there on the back corner of the boat. Is right about now, as I'm bringing this one in, I can see some tuna birds working about 150 yards or so off of the off this weed line. So we decided to run out to troll through that. I ended up deploy this third featherbait lure, and then ended up dropping in the deep diving lure to go after what I was pretty sure were tuna, just by the type of birds that were out there diving, and super active. Again, when you're going through what you think are tuna, don't drive right through the birds. You can do that with mahi, but with tuna, if you drive through the school of mahi, they're going to dive, come up a few hundred yards away again. But they do not like the boat turbulence and the boats coming through. So we loop around, put the lures a little further out. This feather lure off the back corner, I put about 200 feet, so it's in clean water. Also gives me enough room to make a turn around the working birds and then drag the lures right underneath them. Ends up really effective. So what ended up happening here is ended up with a really good sized mahi on my deep diving lure for a surprise, and we ended up with 2 good tuna on the surface lures. Totally opposite of what I would have expected. But when that ended up happening is I brought that big tuna on, ended up just lifting that on, dropping the boat because my daughter had the biggest tuna, blackfin tuna we've ever landed here on hers. Got up the side of the boat. I wanted to gaff that one, did not want to lift that up, want to make sure we don't lose it. I ended up just dropping that big mahi in the bottom of the boat with the deep diving lure with a set of free treble hooks on it, and it hooked me right through the shin. I ended up walking over, gaffing the tuna to get that on board, and then I still had the mahi hooked with the hook through my leg. The mahi was on the back set of treble hooks. The top set of treble hooks was through my leg. So I ended up having to get the tuna on board. I was able to get the mahi off that back set and ended up gaffing the second tuna that was on the other surface lure to bring that in. And then I realized I had just had the boat in for service. I had brand new engine trim, motors put on, both engines. And when I had the boat in for service, I usually take my more expensive toolkits off and tackle boxes off and my first aid kit. So I realized I got out there, I did not have that on, so I had nothing to get this hook out of my leg out there. So cut the line, let the hook dangle all the way back into the dock, and then ended up struggling trying to cut through this hardened steel. My good nippers wouldn't do it. They also these wouldn't flatten my the barb out of it. What I ended up doing was, in the long run, ended up cutting the loop that connects your treble hook to the lure. That way I was able to get the lure out of the way and just work on the treble hook. Eventually I was able to flatten the barbs out enough that we could back it through, but it was tough and it took about 5 minutes total before we were able to get this off. I would say that the whole time coming back, and my daughter kept pouring fresh water down over the leg so it wouldn't dry out, and because I had a lot of fish blood up and down the leg plus my own blood, try to keep it clean and keep it from too much bacteria getting that wound with that hook dangling. I did end up going to the hospital for a tetanus shot. It had been, couldn't even remember last time I had a tetanus shot, but probably close to that 10-year mark. So ended up let them clean it up afterwards, after we got the hook out, got a tetanus shot, and that was how I ended my evening. So just a dumb, stupid mistake. I know better than to leave a fish with those treble hooks jumping around the bottom of the boat, but got caught up in the moment. I was excited for the size of that tuna that my daughter had. But again, just a reminder, don't rush to get through things. That's the end of the result of the wound. Ended up getting it packed and wrapped, but I still enjoyed the fishing trip. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on Lower Keys Living.